Hey everyone, today's video is going to talk about getting the maximum rating for chronic sinusitis. I was in the chronic sinusitis trap for a while. It took me a little bit of time to get it connected and took me some time to get the rating that I thought I deserved. I also just had a buddy of mine who was a vet that had some serious sinus issues. And when we sat down and talked, I honestly believe that he was completely underrated based on what I have researched and what I know about sinusitis and the VA disability ratings for that. So I'm making this video today because if you have sinusitis and you don't know what the criteria is, you may very well be underrated. And I want you to get the maximum that you should have for chronic sinusitis. So to do this video, I'm gonna simply go over what chronic sinusitis is. I'm gonna talk about the criteria, the rating criteria. I'm gonna talk about just the key evidence that you need to get your maximum rating. And then I'm just gonna talk about the C&P exam just a little bit, some tips, some things that I remember. I think I probably went through 3 or 4 C&P exams before I finally got it right, maybe more. And then just some common pitfalls and kind of how to avoid them. And of course, what to do if you're denied or if you're underrated, like what steps do you need to take to get moving forward, and then just a few resources. So jumping right into it. So chronic sinusitis, we all know it's the headaches, it's the facial pain, it's the congestion, the sinus infections, whatever it is for you. Everybody's sinusitis might affect them differently, but if you have it, you probably know you have it, but that's essentially it. I mean, a lot of us have it. It is a presumptive condition. The rating criteria, this is considered a high value claim because it does go all the way up to 50%. It starts off at 0, 10%, 30%, and 50. If you want to be right in the middle, or I'll start at 10. 1 or 2 incapacitating episodes per year, or non-incapacitating episodes with symptoms. I think a lot of us, when we get underrated, because this one is a tough one, like you got to really be able to articulate what you're feeling and the numbers and the quantity of the incapacitating and non-incapacitating episodes. So a lot of us get to that 0, which is just mild symptoms or episodes that don't meet the criteria for higher rating, or just shows up on an X-ray. I thought I had pretty good medical evidence going in from my private ENT, which I do think helped me, but I had to really talk to my ENT to get him understanding what the VA was looking for and how it all matched up. I did talk to a C&P examiner one time who told me that the VA kind of does it weird, and they really just rely on that CT scan or the X-ray, which sometimes it doesn't show up on an X-ray. So moving from 10 to 30%, it's 3 or more incapacitating episodes per year requiring prolonged antibiotic treatment. And then 50 is near constant sinusitis with pain and headaches requiring surgery or multiple treatments per year. I do talk a little bit about sinusitis and the ratings in another video, because there are some more details in these ratings that I'm not going to discuss in this video, but I do go in depth in them, and I'll try to remember to post that video in the comments below so you can watch that. So if you're kind of stuck in that, look for that video. I kind of break down some stuff, and I even throw in some perspective from a VA rater that I know. Okay, so the key evidence that you need to get a maximum rating, number 1, we all know you're going to need that medical diagnosis. You got to have it. You got to have a doctor that says you have chronic sinusitis. You can't just put in a claim for it and hope that you get it. I mean, it is possible. The C&P examiner can diagnose you with it. It can be on the X-ray, and you can do that, but I don't recommend it. Get that medical diagnosis. You also need to be able to show that it's connected to your military service. And there's a couple ways to do that. Number one, you can get it, you can have service treatment records showing that you were treated or diagnosed in service with chronic sinusitis, and that should prove that you have it, so long as you have continuity of symptoms and continued treatment throughout since you've been out. You can also claim this as secondary to something else, or if you're a Gulf War or post 9/11 veteran, this is a presumptive condition if you served over in the Middle East and a bunch of other places around the world. I go into detail in another video, but if you have questions about it, pop them down in the comment section below and I can steer you in the right direction. If you served during that time and you have chronic sinusitis, it doesn't matter if you were diagnosed in service. As long as you have a current diagnosis, you need to put in for this. This is a big one. So, your treatment records, obviously very important. Whether they're service treatment records or your current treatment records, you want to bring these, you want to highlight these to your CMP examiner and to your VA rater. You want them to show that you've had the chronic sinusitis symptoms for whatever period of time you've had them, and how it affects you, and what your doctor has prescribed to you, or what you do to to help yourself heal from these. You want, as I mentioned before, you need to be able to show that you have these sinusitis attacks, throughout the year. So you want to make sure that if you're talking to your doctor about how many you have, how frequent they are. One thing that I will suggest on that is keeping a diary, a symptom diary. A symptom diary, it could be in an app on your phone, and a notebook, you can put it on a calendar. And my suggestion to you is when you're writing out your personal statement, include that symptom diary in your claim. I also suggest that you bring it to your personal doctor and say, look, I had these problems, I had these these symptoms, here's how many I've had, here's what they looked like for me. Your doctor will probably document that into his or her into your records from them. You can also, if you're using an application to communicate with your doctor or your medical team, it could be at the VA, it could be your personal doctor. There's nothing wrong with jotting those notes down in the app, or in some sort of secure messenger to say, hey, today I started having these symptoms and they lasted a couple days. They were incapacitating to me, or they were not incapacitating, or maybe you went to the doctor and you had to get medicine to treat your sinusitis. These are all things that you want documented in there. And then you can submit your own notes and the doctor's notes all at the same time. So moving on to the next section of this is the CMP exam. I cannot stress to you enough, and I've been to a lot of CMP exams, and I've made a lot of mistakes at these CMP exams. I submit all my medical records and my justification for a disability claim through the VA website, and I feel like I have good evidence whenever I send that. But what I've found out over the years is that sometimes the VA doesn't get that to the CMP examiner. So basically, you're sitting in front of a CMP examiner telling them about your story, but you have no medical records to back it up because they don't have them. I remember one time I had to drive an hour away. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and I'm sitting in front of the CMP examiner, who is basically looking at me like this is the first time I ever talked to a doctor about my symptoms, and she didn't have the medical records. She said that the VA didn't send them, so she basically did not diagnose me with it and sent me on my way. I got a chance to look at that later on when I requested my C-file, and I was blown away. After that point, I brought every medical record with me to my doctor's appointment, and I was prepared to show them, hey, my private ENT that I've been seeing for the past, X amount of years, this is what they've been writing. I did that. A CMP examiner said, wow, they've done all the work for me. And then they just fill it out. They give you the rating that you deserve, and you're on your way. So don't waste a CMP exam by not bringing your own medical records, because you can't trust the VA to send it over every single time. So some common pitfalls that I'm going to talk about real quick is, and I've kind of mentioned some of these, is just, inadequate documentation. If you're not going to have the medical evidence to support what you're trying to do, or the evidence to show that this was connected to your service, or it was connected to another condition that you already have service connection, or if you're trying to go presumptive, you got to have some sort of proof that you have that. So if your stuff is inadequate, you're not going to meet the criteria, and it's just going to be a waste of time for you. Not mentioning all the symptoms. When you're going into a CMP exam, they're going to be reading off of a DBQ, a disability benefits questionnaire. These questionnaires help the doctor answer the questions that the VA has about your symptoms or your diagnosis or your condition. And if you're not able to mention all of your symptoms because maybe they didn't completely ask, then you may not get that check box. And if you don't get the check box, you're not going to get the rating that you deserve. And there's a lot of examples through the various conditions, disabilities that are out there where you can really mess this up. Chronic sinusitis is another one. If you have, constant congestion and your sinusitis just never goes away, and you just, it affects you every single day, but the only thing you tell them is that you had to go on antibiotics twice during the year, you're going to get a 10% rating, and that's it. But if you tell them that, you tell them the truth about your symptoms and how, you just have this constant congestion or whatever it is, tell them everything. Don't leave anything out. When they ask you, hey, how many times do you have chronic sinusitis, and you say, well, I've actually went to the doctor twice this year because I had to get on antibiotics, then they're going to think that's all it is. But if it's really more than that, make sure they know that. If it really is only 2, then tell them it's only 2. But make sure that you're documenting all of your symptoms so that you don't get left behind and get underrated, so they have to go through the whole process again. It'll make you frustrated. It wastes your time and energy. It wastes taxpayers' money. Like, do it right the first time and get that rating that you deserve. So what if you don't though? What if you get denied, or you don't get the rating that you think you deserved? Well, in that case, you have to take action. You have to realize that you didn't get what you deserve, and you have to go for it. You're gonna have to file a VA appeal and either add more evidence to your claim, doing a supplemental, or you can just do a higher level review and send it off to another rater. So if you feel like you did a good job and all the medical evidence is there, just send it off for a higher level review. Let a senior person take a look at it and figure out if they got it right. Now, the problem with a higher level review, in most cases, especially if you're doing electronically, there's really not a lot of space to even say what was wrong. So you really have to count on them taking a look at it and saying that it was rated inappropriately, and letting them adjust it. I have done some higher level reviews and I've been successful. So that is an option for you. And you can do that right out of the gate. I wouldn't suggest doing it if you feel like you did a half-assed job documenting or conveying your symptoms. I wouldn't go higher level review, because you're gonna get the same result and it's gonna take months to get that back. But if you feel like you did a half-assed job and you know what you did wrong, go get all the evidence and then push forward a supplemental appeal. Supplemental appeals, you can win them as long as you have the right evidence. And the good thing is when you get the denial, you're gonna get a letter that tells you what you did wrong or what you need. And I really feel that sometimes the VA does try to help out the veteran to say, hey, look, this is what you're missing. Or, this is why we made the decision we made. And if it's something that's missing that you have, just go get it and then submit the supplemental. But take the time to get the right evidence so that you get the right rating. I would also like to say that, if you're doing this by yourself and you don't feel like you're getting anywhere, there are VSOs that can help you out. I have, and I'll do a video on this one time, but I have some mixed emotions about VSOs. I've done this all by myself throughout the time that I've done it, but I did start off with a VSO, and that VSO was terrible. That VSO did not help me. That VSO did not take any initiative. And then towards, the end of where I went, or where I wanted to be, I did sit down and talk to a new VSO who I felt was very helpful. But they didn't help me file my claim. We both agreed that I was kind of already at the point where all I had to do were a couple more things. But I do feel like that VSO was intelligent. And I do feel like there are VSOs out there that are intelligent and that can help you out. But it is very difficult to figure out where to go sometimes. So it's super important for you as a veteran to take, the initiative to get the education on this, and then take that education that you have to someone that's free, that can help you, like a VSO, and get them to, kind of push you to the next way, the rest of the way. So if you're stuck, just get a VSO and see what happens. If not, send me a comment in the comments section below. Maybe I can help you out with just answering some simple questions. I'd be glad to do that as long as it's not 1,000 people. That's it, guys. Let's go get that maximum rating for chronic sinusitis.